It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports,
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Since our founding, we've been revolutionizing hair removal with cutting-edge technology and a commitment to empowerment. The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. Experience the future of hair removal today at ulike.com, because at Ulike, beauty is about looking and feeling good. That's ulike.com. Ulike. With Ease US, make studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects, featuring 468 natural AI voices. Customize the volume, mood, and pauses to perfectly match your content. Plus, capture high quality videos with no watermark. Record your screen, webcam, and voice, and save them instantly to your computer. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Just use AMPACE.
AMPACE.
Coming up, Eagles, Chiefs, Sunday afternoon. It's the Pete Sousa Show. No, guys, honestly, this is Friday morning. It's the Pete Sousa Show. It's the best of. I have an Eagles helmet on because I'm an idiot, but also because we're talking to Sal Paolantonio. Best of Pete Sousa, Sal Paolantonio. That segment will be second. If you missed the video, or excuse me, the interview earlier this week, you're going to really love it. It's Power 25 minutes with Sal, a great time. Fresh content for you this morning. James Westling of ESPN and Big 12 Studios will be calling the Baylor-Samford game. James has got all the intel, baby. He is in town. He is in Waco. We talked to him yesterday right before he left. What's he saying about the Big 12? What's he saying about Baylor, Sawyer Robertson? Everything we get into. You guys wonder why I got so many concussions? It's because I wore a football helmet like this with no padding inside. See? That's the problem. Pete Sousa Show, Friday edition, coming up now. Joining us right now, esteemed ESPN broadcaster, also the host of Big 12 Today, one of my Big 12 and ESPN brethren, also other stuff going on out there in the future. We got big news, big plans. It is James Westling, and James is on the call for Baylor and Samford this week in Waco, Texas. My man, how you feeling?
Man, I'm good. Good to be on with you, my guy, Pete. I'm excited. Excited to get to Waco. I think this Baylor football team is really good. I think people are sleeping on them and their win at SMU. I mean, they just beat a team that played in the college football playoffs in their house last Saturday, and I don't think it's getting the attention that it deserves. That was a really big win for Baylor and a really big win for the Big 12.
Well, you're uniquely qualified to talk about these games. I mean, for instance, I'm doing Rice this weekend. Like, I'd be lying if I said I had been like watching Rice and Prairie View since camp had started, So like sometimes we do parachute in on a Sunday night or whenever we're done our game on Saturday and start to prep for these teams. For you, this is different. I mean, this Baylor football team from all the work you do on Big 12 Today, right? On Big 12 Radio exclusively on TuneIn. So what are your thoughts about this Baylor team so far and their body of work? Not only obviously a tough non-con, but now as they enter into the teeth of the Big 12 after this date with Samford.
Yeah, I think Dave Aranda and the coaching staff deserves a tremendous amount of credit for scheduling in the way that they have. Opening the season against an SEC team, playing week 2 against kind of a low-key rival, a team that was probably better than they thought they'd be when they scheduled that game. And then the tune-up game this weekend, and then Arizona State to open Big 12 play. Like, if they win 9 or 10 games, they will be in the conversation for a college football at-large berth if they don't win the Big 12 because of how they've scheduled. I think they're really dynamic offensively. I was a little bit worried before the season when they lost Dawson Pendergrass, their backup running back, because Washington wasn't used to toting the ball 20, 25 times a game, and they're nothing but freshmen behind him. So that is still a little bit of a concern. But with the way Sawyer Robertson is just balling out, like 3 straight games dating back to last year, over 400 yards passing. There hasn't been a Big 12 quarterback to do that since Patrick Mahomes in 2016. Like, he is playing on a whole nother level that, again, I think deserves more attention nationally than maybe it's getting. My concern with Baylor is defensively. Without Marshall, I don't think he's going to play. There's no official release yet because this isn't a conference game, so the weekly availability reports is not a requirement in the non-conference. But he's questionable against Samford. I mean, he's their guy on that defensive line. And I think Dave Aranda's defenses are so complex. He's incredibly surgical in the way that he schemes his defenses. I think it takes time for them to kind of settle in. So you factor that there was no preseason for Baylor, opening up against Auburn, opening up against SMU. Like, they're only going to get better defensively. And then all of a sudden you've got a well-rounded football team that's very much a contender in the Big 12.
Dude, I so agree with you because your point about the intricacies of that defense and settling in, like I was kind of freaked out when things started this season because Dave talked about, hey, I'm doing all these different, we're going to have different looks and different schemes. And you sometimes are like, whoa, this could be too much for these guys. You know what I mean? Now, Dave Aranda knows way more about me than this stuff. So you trust he knows what he's doing. But I think we did see a little bit of that stunted progression early on because in football, right, you want guys to be fast and free and running around with confidence. And we haven't quite seen that downhill approach yet from this Baylor defense.
Totally agree. And they brought in 13 new transfers on the defensive side of the football, which, again, everybody in the Big 12 is talking about Texas Tech's portal class and Colorado. Baylor had one of the largest portal classes in the league, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So when you've got 8 returning starters and then you're adding 13 transfers to that side of the ball alone, it's going to take time. And I'm with you. I mean, you watch the Baylor defense, and it is fast and it is free. but it's chaos, and it's not yet organized chaos. It just looks like guys are running around the field all over trying to recover from misaligned mistakes or communication breakdowns. And against teams like Auburn and SMU, that's going to really hurt, and it's going to show on the scoreboard. But against Samford, they'll just be so much bigger, stronger, faster. That's a game for them to kind of clean up some of those mistakes before they get Arizona State. And then after that, it's Oklahoma State. Their quarterback situation's very up in the air. Their ground game's been a non-factor. Kansas State, who knows, with their left tackle out now for an extended period of time. They still don't have Dylan Edwards, their star running back. Like, I look at Baylor's schedule and just seeing how much improved they got defensively last year after they started 2-4, and I'm still really high on this team.
All right, two things I got to hit on there that you talked about. And I want to, of course, mention some of the teams that are doing well that we didn't expect to, but you mentioned two that are struggling right now we didn't expect to, Arizona State and Kansas State. I love Sam Levitt yesterday. I'm not tripping. That quote is like, that's it, right? But should he be tripping? And should Arizona State fans be tripping? That was a tough loss, not only for the team, but for the conference in Starkville.
It was because of what Mississippi State did last year. They won 2 football games. Nobody thought that they'd do anything this year. But you watch them, and kind of previewing that game on our radio show, I started to see that they are a lot better, kind of like Auburn in the SEC. There's a team that went 2-10 last year that's in the top 10 now in Florida State. Like, I think in this NIL transfer portal world, what you did last year doesn't matter. It doesn't lead to the same results the next year. So Mississippi State upgraded in the trenches. They got better at receiver. Blake Shapen, who was a really good quarterback last year, when he was healthy, he had one of the best in the SEC touchdown to interception ratio, but he only played in 4 or 5 games. He's healthy. My point is, Mississippi State, I don't think is a bad loss. A night game on the road. I think at the end of the year, we're going to look at that matchup and say, we shouldn't have been that surprised. I think Arizona State showed a lot of veteran leadership in the way they came back in that game. Like, they were down 17-0. They come back. They have a chance towards the end. I don't know that Arizona State is as good as their preseason AP top 25 ranking, which was top 15, top 13, I think, in the country. But I also don't think they're a team that's going to go 6-6. I think they're probably somewhere in the middle.
Talk to me about Kansas State. I mean, that's your squad. This is close to home for you. I apologize. James is a Kansas State dude, alum, card-carrying member, tries to put the card away when he talks about the Big 12, but with his passion, it's impossible. How are we feeling right now about the Wildcats? And really, I need you to play doctor and diagnose what the problem is.
Yeah, not good. It's not good, Pete. We're not feeling good. I think the loss to George Fitzpatrick right before the season was a huge factor in how they've gotten to where they are. He was a transfer from Ohio State, 4-star kid out of high school. Chris Kleiman told us at media days that he was their best offensive lineman. And that's your left tackle. He's protecting Avery Johnson's blind side. So he misses the Iowa State game due to an undisclosed medical issue. Then he misses the North Dakota game. Then he misses the Army game. And now they're saying best case scenario mid-October. So that's number one. Number two, Dylan Edwards going out on the first play for him of the game against Iowa State when he muffs a punt. He hasn't played this season. There's a huge drop-off from him to K-State's backup running back. He was expected to be a huge part of what they do offensively with all the zone read stuff. He's dynamic as a kick/punt returner. He's a great pass catcher. He was a major piece. So I think injuries have played a major role in K-State being where they are. They don't trust their offensive line. They don't want Avery Johnson taking hits. And so now he's turned into a pocket passer, which he's much improved from where he was last year as a thrower, but that's not his best skill set, which is taking off and getting outside the pocket and using his speed. And they don't want him doing that because they can't risk further injuries. And the thing about, as you know, college football, it feels like your teams usually don't get healthier as the season progresses. The injuries just keep piling on and on. So maybe you get Dylan Edwards back and Fitzpatrick in October, but maybe you've lost 2 or 3 linebackers or defensive linemen. So I just think it's been a collection of unforeseen, unfortunate, outside of their control things. And I think it's a long road ahead for K-State to recover.
Yeah, it's been a tough situation so far. And you love Chris Kleiman, and you see him talking to the media after their loss last week. And it was just, you could tell, man, like it's going to be a tough road to hoe, and you appreciate his transparency on that. All right, positives. Utah's one of the teams that's emerging. They have emerged, right? And you just love to see Kyle Whittingham and what Devin Dampier's doing. The success there, undeniable so far. Do you feel as though once they get into the big schedule that this will be one of the teams that we're talking about at AT&T Stadium at the end of the year?
Yes, I definitely think they are in the conversation. The Devin Dampier experiment has gone flawlessly, 10 out of 10. I mean, What else would you want him to do? His completion percentage is way higher than it was in New Mexico. He's not turning the ball over. He's taking what the defense gives him. You know, Kyle Whittingham said earlier this week that, you know, they were lacking explosive plays. He's nitpicking. Like, they're getting chunk plays. They're putting up plenty of yardage, okay? And he said, we're getting a lot of chunk plays, but no explosives. Well, the difference between a chunk and an explosive is about 5 yards, okay? And they're both good for a first down. So this offense is still humming right along with Dampier. I just think he looks poised. He looks confident. He looks in control. The Utah defense is a Utah defense. They're good every year. They don't maybe have the playmakers at receiver that some of the other schools do, like a Texas Tech or a Baylor in the Big 12. But I think with that dominant offensive line, I like the way their schedule shapes up. Even if they lose to Texas Tech here in a couple of weeks, then they have West Virginia. They get Arizona State at home. They get Colorado and Cincinnati at home. Like, I see a path for them to win 8, 9, maybe 10, maybe even 11 games. I was so impressed by how they destroyed UCLA.
Yeah.
A UCLA team that was supposed to be a lot better and won 4 of their last 5 last year under Deshaun Foster. So I think they're the real deal.
Couple other schools, right, that I feel like started the year below the radar, but are starting to percolate. I think BYU is one of them. I think the quick anointment of Bear Bachmeier in camp, probably sooner than people thought, to be a starting quarterback, and him finding his rhythm early on. I mean, how have they impressed you, and how do you think their sea legs will be as they get going into a tougher part of the schedule?
Yeah, I still think Bear Bachmeier, you know, he's been so good early on that it's easy to forget that he's a true freshman. And I think once we get into Big 12 play, he'll have some hurdles. There will be some games that he won't be at his best. With that said, you know, the defense looks better, which is hard to believe based off what they did last year. You know, they're dominating the turnover margin. They're dominating the line of scrimmage, albeit against lesser opponents. But, I mean, they took an ACC school. I know Stanford had just lost to Hawaii, but just the way BYU dominated in the trenches really stood out to me. LJ Martin, who was beat up last year, you know, he didn't have his normal allotment of carries. He's 100% healthy, and he looks the part. He leads the Big 12 in rushing 2 weeks into the season. So I had BYU preseason probably lower in my mind than I should have. I didn't think that they could, you know, find lightning in a bottle 2 years in a row when it comes to their defense, turnover margin, and the special teams and all those things. But that's just the BYU way. And I don't know why I doubted that so much, because 2 weeks in, they look even better than they did last year.
Yeah, it's another team that looks a lot better than they did last year, 2 weeks in, TCU. That's a squad I think that we're starting to realize with Josh Hoover, there may be no ceiling. What has impressed you about the Horned Frogs this year so far?
Yeah, so that win against North Carolina, the defense stood out to me. You know, this is year 2 for Andy Avalos, the defensive coordinator, and his system. Bud Clark's pick 6 was a huge turning point in that game. They won the turnover battle. Like TCU the last 3 or 4 years, dating back to their national championship run, they've essentially won every game that they win the turnover battle, and they've lost every game that they lose the turnover battle. So for the defense to have just a couple of takeaways means so much for that football team. And then the way they ran the football, like the offensive line looks night and day better than it did last season. I think that this stable of running backs that they have are capable. I don't know that there's any all league guys, but they're capable. And then Josh Hoover is so underrated. Like, I don't know that there's, as good as Robertson's been, I think you could make a case that Hoover throws the best ball in the Big 12. Like those back corner of the end zone fades that he just dropped.
That was the best pass all year. I think the first touchdown throw against Carolina was the best pass I've seen all season long so far. Young season, but yeah.
Just right on the money. I mean, he is so accurate. He can make all the throws. He's composed and poised in the pocket. He's not a runner, but he's not afraid to take hits.
Yeah.
So I'm high on TCU, and North Carolina looked a lot better against Charlotte, their second time out. So all of a sudden, oh, hey, North Carolina might not win a game. Like, I think that's out the door. You know, they looked pretty good against Charlotte. So I think TCU beat an ACC opponent that's, you know, going to be a 5 to 7 win football team. But to beat them like that on national television in a true road environment says a lot about TCU.
It says a lot about the character of the team. I totally agree, and sort of the chip on the shoulder this season. One more team-specific question, then I'll ask you a broad one and let you get out of here. Iowa State, what will it take for the Cyclones to punch through this year, to get to the college football playoff, to win the Big 12 championship? Because you feel like the know-how is there, the experience is there. Matt Hake specifically.
Well, I think they've already accomplished a couple of things that they didn't last year in terms of beating quality opponents early on in the season. They've already beaten Iowa. They beat Kansas State when Kansas State was ranked, which I know Kansas State's 1-2 now, but at the time, that was a huge win for Iowa State week 0. You know, they're doing all the things that Matt Campbell teams do. They're dominating special teams. They are winning the turnover battle. Rocco Becht is not making mistakes. Their ground game is efficient enough. The offensive line's been fantastic. They probably have the best tight end room in the Big 12, one of the best in the country, with Brahmer coming back off an injury. And then defensively, you know, they still have playmakers in the secondary. I know they lost 3 guys to the NFL, but Jontez Williams is a lockdown corner. Dominic Orange looks as good as he ever has. Big citrus in the middle.
Yeah.
So that and then they're healthy at linebacker. Like getting Caleb Bacon back is huge for them. They're just one of those teams that, you know, they're not going to beat people by scoring 30, 40, 50 points a game. But they don't make mistakes. They never get penalized. They do the little things. And I really like the way their schedule shapes up. Like, I think Iowa State has gotten past, in a lot of ways, you could argue, the meat of their schedule, beating Kansas State and beating Iowa. You know,
and especially when you consider that trip to Ireland and then coming back and sort of seamlessly reintegrating, that says a ton about the program.
Well, and South Dakota is a preseason top 3 team in FCS.
Yeah,
They're preseason a lot better than North Dakota, who almost beat K-State. And so now you get Arkansas State, then you have a bye, and then it's Arizona, Cincinnati, and Colorado. Like, you know, their schedule shapes up for them to start 7-0 again, like they did last year. And I think Rocco Becht is another guy that's underrated. You know, he makes all the big time throws. You look at his numbers after a game and the box score doesn't wow you, but he makes the throws that matter. There's just an it factor. There's a trust factor. There's a swagger with him. And that's another team that I really like. I think the Big 12 collectively is way more top heavy this year than it was last year.
And that's a good thing. I mean, you know, hopefully you and I come December won't be talking about, oh, we got a lot of teams in bowl games. We want to be talking about, hey, we got multiple teams in the college football playoff. You know, that is what we want to be. That's our business in December, you know, not talking about bowl games. That's what we hope for, at least, right?
1,000%. I think, you know, let's start by getting more than one team in. And then the next step is to win a college football playoff game. If you do those two things, all of a sudden, I think the narrative that the Big 12 is just competitive balance and there's no alpha, but there's no one real contender, I think that starts to dissolve. You know, winning a game would be huge. And I look at teams in other conferences and I look at teams in this conference, and like I watch Texas Tech, and that is a roster full of NFL talent. You've got a defensive tackle on 55-yard pick six that hits almost 20 miles an hour. That's an NFL dude. There are just NFL guys up and down that roster, and they're doing to these lesser opponents what they're supposed to do. And they're doing it with starters playing anywhere from 15 to 20 snaps on both sides of the ball. Like, these guys are getting rest, and even the backups look good. They have a very complete team.
I know there's a lot of turnover, but I do believe, too, that win they had on the road last year at Jack Trice Stadium sort of mentally helps that staff and some of the guys like Baron Morton who are back understand, hey, we know how to win these kind of games on the road. I think that's a big deal for them. All right, last question for you, because you've talked to just about all the royalty in the Big 12, and we're all going to say that Commissioner Yormark's the best. So we'll not only is he compelling and entertaining, he's also the boss. Who is your favorite guy that you have on Big 12 today? You know, it could be basketball or football. Coaches were saying more so when you're like, okay, I know that this guy is just going to take care of this whole thing for me, and I can sit back and enjoy this and not have to work as much.
Okay, coaches, you said.
Yeah, coaches. And if there's a player, I want to go personnel or players or coaches.
I'll tell you what, I've got two. When it's basketball season, Kelvin Sampson.
Yeah.
It took several interviews to kind of build that relationship and that trust factor. And, you know, I asked him what makes the difference between, you know, the type of kid that you want to recruit to Houston and a knucklehead when you're out there on the recruiting trail, because he doesn't like those type of guys. And just his breakdown and the things he looks for in terms of body language. And then, you know, he's telling us stories about after the national championship game, the vacation that him and his family took. And basically it was just a huge party. We're finally kind of peeling back the layers of Kelvin Sampson. And he's a one-of-a-kind college basketball coach. On the football side, I would say, you know, Chris Kleiman's usually very transparent. And then I would say Joey McGuire. Like, I think Joey McGuire connects with this Gen Z, you know, this generation of student athlete way more than you and I could, and way more than a lot of coaches in America. He's very likable. He's talking about growing up in a small town and watching Varsity Blues, and he's quoting, you know, lines from the movie, and we're all you know, getting a good chuckle out of it. I just really like him as a person. And then also the way he talks about his staff, they are just so detail oriented, with James Blanchard, the general manager, who was posting on message boards film breakdowns of guys, and all of a sudden somebody sees it and they're like, hey, I think this guy could actually do this for a living. And fast forward 5-10 years later, he's maybe the best general manager in college football. So there's a lot going on there behind the scenes that I always really enjoy listening to Coach McGuire.
Folks, you can get more of this Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Central Time, but he'll take you into the afternoon, right? And he also takes you through every morning on Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn. And by the way, you know, James and I do a lot of Big 12 football, Big 12 hoops. You might be seeing us different places doing Big 12 hoops. It's all good, baby. It's all good right now. You know?
Man, it's a great league to be a part of. Like,
yes.
You know, if I could buy stock in the Big 12, I'm all in.
Me too.
Conference is on the rise. And, you know, like I said, a big step is winning a college football playoff game. The league was close last year. The next step is to break through and get a win come December and January.
We finally broke through over here. We got James Westling on. All right, man. Yo, dude, for real. We'll talk soon. Hit me up and we can chat offline. But yeah, you're the man, James. I appreciate you spending the time with us.
Thanks, Pete. This was awesome.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down to afterwards, was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
I don't know, if Bubble wasn't here, I don't know what people would be doing, like making PowerPoints or something. Bubble allows you to make it real and for it to actually work. So I feel like Bubble bridges that gap and being able to give people the opportunity to make their ideas come to life really quickly too. I love that I can sit down and build something the way that I think it should be built and have the control over it.
Bubble turns ideas into fully scalable apps. Try Bubble today.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific goal for your skincare routine. What do you want to achieve? Active ingredients are really strong, and if you're using too many at once, your skin can get overwhelmed. Don't overspend on products. Choose products that have scientific research behind them. At Face Theory, if you're not happy with a product, just say so, just give us a shout and we'll give you your money back, no problem.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. Tailor the colors, fonts, and design to match your brand and seamlessly integrate with your WordPress website. Whether it's for events or appointments, Amelia makes booking simple, stylish, and perfectly aligned with your business. Enhance your booking experience today at WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted partner in the journey towards financial stability.
We are back with ESPN Sal Paolantonio. Sal Pal, of course, we know him reporting forever on the NFL. And, of course, at the NFL Matchup Show, which we were just talking, Sal, we love your team. Darius Butler, Greg Cosell, and you, ESPN, ESPN2. You can catch it Saturday and Sunday mornings. And also, you can catch it forever on ESPN+. How did that team come together? That's a great squad.
Yeah, it is. Thanks a lot, Pete. Thanks for mentioning the show. Darius Butler is just a terrific former defensive back. He's also on the Pat McAfee show. And we like to have somebody from defense to balance out Greg Cosell, who is a terrific guy on quarterbacks. He's our quarterback guru, our quarterback whisperer. We had Matt Bowen before Darius Butler. Matt Bowen was a great safety. Before that, Louis Riddick, who also played in a secondary. And before that, before Cosell was on the show, we had Jaws and Merrill Hodge. So we like the balance of defense with Greg Cosell, and it gives us an all-22 look to our breakdowns of matchups. What we like to say on the show is that the NFL game is a game of matchups, and you have to pay attention to that week in and week out if you really wanted to figure out who's going to have the edge, who's going to win the ball game.
All right. So when I was growing up in Philly, my dad used to read you all the time. I mean, especially politically early on, I can remember. And then obviously on the Eagles beat. Who was your favorite politician to cover in Philly? Were you ever on like the Frank Rizzo beat?
I covered Frank Rizzo's last two campaigns for mayor in 1987 and 1991, and I wrote his biography, The Last Big Man in Big City America, which came out in 1993. Actually, Pete, believe it or not, in the year 2025, just got another royalty check for that book. It has some great legs to it because of the Rizzo name and how powerful Frank Rizzo was. I spent a lot of time with him before he died, working on the book, and then when he died on July 20th, 1991, I put aside my coverage of the campaign in 91. I did continue to cover it, but not as exclusively, and tried to finish the book, which goes all the way back to the 1860s to Frank Rizzo's grandfather's involvement in Garibaldi's army for the unification of Italy, and travels all the way through the 20th century experience of Italian immigration in the Philadelphia area, as well as breaking down the history of politics in Philadelphia and the fight between Democrats and Republicans for control of the city, and what Rizzo's role was involved, first as police commissioner, then as mayor. And he ran, of course, as you know, Pete, 5 times for mayor of Philadelphia. And he was a national figure. There's one chapter in the book on just his relationship with Richard Nixon.
Dude, unbelievable stuff. And leads me to my next question: is the Eagles more colorful guy to cover, Frank Rizzo or Buddy Ryan? I know you're probably on the tail end of, but I mean, dude, those are two of my favorite Philly personalities of all time.
Well, Rizzo, it's hard to top Rizzo, but I love Buddy Ryan because he was just such a great student of the great game, but also an ex-Marine during the Korean War. So he had such a great balanced view of life and football that I was able to learn so much from him. Remember, at the time that I started covering the Eagles, I was in my mid-30s. Now I'm 69 years old, so long time. And I had just stopped covering politics, and I was put on the Eagles beat by the editors of the paper because they were looking for somebody to do the Eagles, and they asked me to jump over to sports. And I'd never covered sports before, actually, since college. So I really relied on Buddy in the beginning to teach me the game and the ins and outs of NFL politics. And man, what an education that was, I got to tell you. And by the way, I don't know, Pete, if you agree with me or not, I think Buddy Ryan should be in the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. So Buddy Ryan was the defensive coordinator of the 85 Bears that absolutely demolished all of the competition on their record run to a Super Bowl title. He's the godfather of the 46 defense. He was also the defensive coordinator of the greatest upset in Super Bowl history. He was the defensive coordinator of the Jets.
Jets, yeah.
Under Weeb Ewbank when Joe Namath beat the Colts. So he is the author of 2 of the greatest Super Bowl defenses of all time. I think, in my humble opinion, and I'm a voter in Canton for enshrinement, I think Buddy Ryan should be in.
Is there, for the 46 defense, and you mentioned like being the architect or something like that, is there another way he could get in as like a contributor too, if they saw fit or you guys saw fit?
Yep, contributor. I think there should be an assistant coach put in, like every 2 to 3 or 5 years. You know, we should recognize Monty Kiffin, Bud Carson, definitely Buddy Ryan, Tom Moore. There's a bunch of Dante Scarnecchia, the offensive line coach of the New England Patriots. There's a lot of guys that
we were talking yesterday to Randy Cross, and Bob McKittrick was a guy who he brought up right away.
A great idea. Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Howard Mudd.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm on it. I'm on it. All right. Let's get to the Phils now. Present day. Right behind you, you got your book, Philly Special, right? That's about a very special team, a very special occasion, and just an amazing moment in history, that 2017 team. If you were to write one more chapter, like, you know, a postscript about that season and about that team as we move into present day, what would it have been?
Keep Nick Foles. One of the worst decisions that the franchise has ever made was getting rid of Foles and keeping Wentz. If they had kept Foles and Peterson together, they would have won another Super Bowl.
Now, someone like you who was around the locker room and you knew the inner workings, right, ins and outs, and you can't report all of it because that's, you know, who you are as a journalist with integrity. Wow, this is the wrong move to make.
I did, and I said it publicly, Pete. You know, it doesn't really matter what was going on in the locker room sometimes, but in this case, it does. So not only was Foles the right choice from a football standpoint, people make fun of me all the time, Pete. I think Nick Foles has got to be in the Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia Eagles players. He was the Super Bowl MVP for the first Super Bowl title of the team. I mean, come on. I mean, it's Reggie White, Nick Foles, and Van Buren, and then fill in the blank. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts could be right there. I think this Eagles team that won last year was one of the top three. SI is coming out with a list of the top Super Bowl teams. I voted it as the top Super Bowl team of all time. I did. I think it's right there with the Niners of 89, the Bears of 85, certainly, and probably the second Steelers team that won the Super Bowl in the 70s. I forget the exact year. And, of course, the Packers team that won that second Super Bowl in the 60s.
Those first two teams you mentioned, and they put total punctuation marks on their seasons, just absolutely demolishing the competition, right? The Patriots got killed by the Bears. The 49ers and the 89 team crushed the Broncos at the Superdome. Yep. And then the Eagles demolished, right, Kansas City last year. To this Eagles team. Big change in the offseason, obviously. I feel like, and maybe this is because I'm in Texas now, and I still read it all, but maybe I don't hear as much as I used to. The Nick Sirianni-Jalen Hurts relationship with the removal of Kellen Moore, was that fence mended to a point where they're good to go from here? Or is there a chance maybe that there is maybe some discord this year without Kellen Moore around?
No, I think it's totally mended, and it was mended last season. They're really in a good place, the two of them. I really believe that. Hey, you win a Super Bowl together, that mends all fences, it heals all wounds. But here's the thing. Sirianni was the MVP last year, Pete. The way he kept that team together after that bad start, the way he listened to his players and adapted his frame of mind and approach, adapted his football approach and his coaching approach. He listened to the offensive line when they came in. They knocked on his door, came in after the Week 4 loss in Tampa, which was a disaster, and said, you know, our team should run through number 26. And let's just put it on our backs. And then the analytics department has figured out something really interesting that a lot of people don't talk about, Pete. But we'll talk about it on your show. I have talked about it a little bit. You know, the Eagles have the heaviest offensive line in the NFL. Biggest, heaviest. Why? Well, in the last 25 years, NFL defenses have been slowly shrinking in size because they want faster, lighter players to defend the passing game. That has been the evolution of defenses in the 21st century, to the point where in 2024, there were 220 starters in the NFL in the front seven that were 240 pounds or less. That's the lightest ever in NFL history. Lightest ever. So the Eagles have figured out, listen, we get a big offensive line. We pound these light defenses. We're going to be able to move the ball at will. Watch a lot of these other Week 1 games. compared to what the Eagles are. You see that the Eagles are always in control of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Even when they're not in control of the game. And when you control the line of scrimmage in the NFL like that, you are able to do what you want to do, whether it's hand it to Barkley, whether it's swing passes to Goddard, finding Devontae Smith occasionally downfield, getting those in-cut routes to A.J. Brown, although that did not happen week 1. Or, more important, Jalen Hurts finding a way to run on third down or throw on third down. You know, Pete, he was 6 for 6 on third down.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He was 6 for 6. I mean, that's pretty good. And the Packers did a really good job of playing matchup man to man. They matched up. And, you know, people want to make a lot of A.J. Brown having no targets until the fourth quarter, first time in his career. But A.J. Brown, you go back and watch the film, Pete, A.J. Brown was a willing and competitive blocker on many of the plays that Jalen Hurts got first downs with his legs. He's a smart player, tough player, good blocker, didn't put up the big numbers. And you know what? I was looking at some numbers this morning to get ready for your show. So Puka Nacua of the Rams, he had 130 receiving yards. The Rams saw way more than anybody on the Eagles in that game. The Rams only scored 14 points against the Texans at home. So another one, Joe Flacco had 290 passing yards, lost the game. So numbers don't tell the whole story in the National Football League. Travis Etienne of the Jaguars, they won the game. He had 143 rushing yards. You got to look at, in this league right now, the way things are set up, rushing attempts are the number one determining factor in who wins or loses. We're in the middle of a running back revolution in the National Football League. 5 teams had more than 500 rushing attempts last year. 5. All 5 made the playoffs. Eagles, number 1, won the Super Bowl. The next 4 had 450 to 500 yards rushing attempts. All 4 of them made the playoffs. That's the first time that's ever happened in the NFL, ever.
Now, are some of these, like, you have these coaches with these great egos, and ego sometimes gets a bad rap. It's what you need sometimes to be successful on that level. Have they had to swallow some pride? Because we're talking about innovators here, right? Like, is that something that's happening now around the league? Like you mentioned the Sirianni thing. Guys knock on his door, hey, we got to run the football. We got to run it down their throat with Saquon.
Well, I've always been a big believer, Pete, that your personnel should determine your approach, your philosophy, and your scheme. It is a players' league. Now, design matters, of course, no question. So let's just look at design specifically, since we're focused on Philadelphia. Now, the design of Kevin Patullo's offense, first time out, calling plays in his NFL career in week 1. So he's feeling his way out. But I would have liked to have seen some pitches, reverses, 9 routes out of A.J. Brown. Creative and different ways to get him the football. Not for nothing, he's also very good one-on-one coming down with the ball. Just throw it to him and trust him. But I think what's been pounded into Jalen's head, and rightly so, listen, we will control the line of scrimmage. You control the football. Remember that, Pete.
Yeah.
Remember that. We will control the line of scrimmage. You control the football. Don't turn it over. It's more important that you don't turn it over and you don't take sacks than you have completions, because we can run up the number of rushing attempts. And you look at Monday night last night, right? Now, Ben Johnson you was talking about so-called innovators, Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson had a 2-back set in Detroit. He should have just taken that offense, superimposed it on Caleb Williams in Chicago, and said, this is our identity. We will get 2 backs. We've reformulated our offensive line under new GM Ryan Pace, and we will just control the line of scrimmage, and we will ask Caleb Williams to make a few plays with his arms and with his legs. Caleb Williams is pretty fast. He showed that last night. But in the end, they didn't control the game. It got away from them.
I love that response. And it brings me back a couple more questions for you because I know you're a busy guy, and I so appreciate this. Jalen Hurts, you've covered him, obviously, since he came into the league. What has been the biggest change for him as a player, as a dude, whatever it is, that has allowed him to – I mean, we know how committed he is, right? That's like – I know that from 30,000 feet. But like someone like you knows why exactly he has evolved into this – I mean, perfect steward for the Eagles offense. It's pretty amazing. And as a fan, you know, I got my Eagles helmet right here, even though I'm a Cowboys country. I knock on wood a little bit, you know, because it's pretty damn good right now.
Yeah, and Pete, you know, I'm not an Eagles fan. I grew up in New York. I don't really root for any teams. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. You know, my job is to tell the story of the game and these players. But I interviewed Jalen Hurts his rookie season. And I interviewed Mike Vick, Carson Wentz, Nick Foles, Donovan McNabb, Randall Cunningham, all the Eagles starting quarterbacks for the last 30 years. And at a young age of 23, I found that Jalen Hurts was so focused and so determined and such a gentleman. I was super impressed. I said to myself, this guy is the son of a coach, you know, from Texas. He really understands what he wants to do. Like he always says, I had a purpose before you had an opinion. Now, he said that when he was 23. That's pretty good. I wasn't saying 23. Now, I was a Navy officer at age 23, but still, you know, he obviously learned a lot from his dad. So very early on, he had a singular focus and an idea of who he wanted to be. And you used the word evolve. And he has evolved as he's become more confident in his game and more confident as a leader and gotten coaching from Shane Steichen, from Nick Sirianni, and from the players around him. But he was asked a very interesting question this summer. Do you have more confidence now that you've won a Super Bowl? And his answer was, well, yeah, of course. You know, when you win a Super Bowl, you feel like you can basically do anything. And so I've watched his, I won't say maturation because he was mature from the beginning. I think I'm going to go back to your word. You know, and all people evolve. They all have evolutions through different parts of their life, but his has been steady on a steady rise. And then the other thing is, Pete, watch him at the line of scrimmage. You know, Tom Brady said at the beginning of the season, quarterbacks are not as cerebral anymore. They're all not. Jalen Hurts is cerebral. He gets to the line of scrimmage. He knows what the defense is doing. He's got the answers to the tests pre-snap. He can get the Eagles out of bad plays. It really started last year when they went into M&T Bank Stadium and waxed. Remember that game? They waxed the Ravens.
Yeah.
Watch that game closely. That's Jalen Hurts getting out of bad plays and getting into good ones and calling his own number off of other things. You know, when you have 26-1 and you have to occupy your mind and personnel to both of those guys being able to run with the football, that's diabolical. It really is. And then you put up there Mailata, who's a oak tree on ice skates, and Lane Johnson, who's going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame over here on this side. And in the middle, oh, by the way, you have Mr. Nasty Man, Landon Dickerson, and Cam Jurgens, who would rather eat your lunch than talk to you. So you got, I think, the 4 of the 5 best offensive linemen together in the NFL, all coached by the best offensive line coach, and Jeff Stoutland, who's also the run coordinator. You know, health is important. They were the second healthiest team in the league last season. They were lucky with injuries. They're set up to go back. They are set up to go back. If Jerry Jones had not traded Micah Parsons to Green Bay, they'd probably skate to the NFC Championship game.
So that's the consensus, right? Green Bay is the team in their way. I got one more question for you before let you out of here. What is the biggest story?
By the way, Pete, your questions are great.
Thanks.
You're a great interviewer. You're great.
Thank you very much.
And I don't throw that around a lot. I mean, this is the first time you and I have met one another.
Yeah.
First time I've been on the air with you. I could talk like this with you for 2 hours. You're you listen, you answer, you ask good questions. You're good.
Coming from you, that means more than you know. Last one. Let's see if I can avoid screwing it up. What is the number one story in the NFL right now that people are not talking about?
It's a one-score league, Pete. Go back to last year. The largest number of games in NFL history in a single season was decided by 8 points or less. Now, look at what happened in week one, just in the last 2 games, Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. I mean, even though the Eagles game, the Eagles were favored by what, 8 at one point, 8.5, almost 9. I think it got up to 9. I mean, listen, I don't gamble. I'm not allowed because of our policy, and I don't want to. I gamble on my children and my grandchildren, which is a lot more fun for me. All my money goes to them. But, I do give gambling advice once in a while. Don't give out big numbers in the NFL. Just don't. It's a one-score league. The Eagles were favored by 9. I said to guys before the game at the link, I said, just be careful. Anything can happen, especially in this league. Late game turnovers, injuries, guys spitting on another guy before the ball is snapped. I mean, I've covered over 1,000 games as a professional sports person. First time I ever saw that, Pete. Wow.
I wish I talked to you last week. I lost a bet to Matt Mosley. I gave him the Cowboys and the points, but bad move by me.
You lost a bet to Matt Mosley. Of all people, Maron, what happened to you?
Tell me about it, Sal. Man, thank you so much, Sal Pal. We so appreciate it. Folks, make sure you watch NFL Matchup. That's the show you got to see. Greg Cosell, Darius Butler, of course, our man Sal Pal, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN Plus. It'll live there forever if you want to check it out. Sal, thanks so much, man.
Hey, Pete, let's do this again. Let's say like in 4 weeks, reach out to me and we'll see where we are, all right?
I've loved that, Sal. It's an honor. Thanks so much.
Pleasure to talk to you.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning. So we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is Stark.
We are Rogue Media Sports.